The studio lights were blinding, the cameras were rolling, and millions of eyes were glued to the screen. Jimmy Kimmel, the man known for his jokes, his sarcasm, and his charm, suddenly went silent. And then, boom, his voice erupted across the stage, raw and furious. No one had ever seen him like this before. What triggered it? Just one man. Tyrus, stepping onto his stage, daring to say what no one else ever had. "Jimmy," Tyrus said, staring him straight in the eye, "you've been making jokes about people like me for years. But what if the joke's on you this time?" And in that one moment, the entire show flipped upside down. It started as an ordinary night for Jimmy Kimmel Live. The audience was laughing, the music was playing, and Jimmy was in his element, witty, confident, unstoppable. He had invited Tyrus, a former wrestler and political commentator, expecting a typical interview, a mix of humor, teasing, and maybe a little tension. But what Jimmy didn't know was that Tyrus wasn't there to laugh. He was there to confront. As the cameras rolled, Jimmy smiled and said, "Tyrus, good to see you, man. You ready to wrestle some jokes tonight?" Tyrus leaned back in his chair, calm but sharp. "Jimmy, I'm not here for jokes. I'm here to talk about something real." The audience chuckled, thinking it was part of the bit. But then the mood shifted. You could feel it in the air, the energy changed, the laughter faded, and even Jimmy's grin began to falter. Tyrus leaned forward. "You talk about fairness, kindness, and equality on your show, right? But when it comes to people who think differently than you mock them, you label them. Why?" Jimmy blinked, caught off guard. "I just make jokes, man. It's entertainment." "Entertainment," Tyrus said softly. "When you humiliate someone's beliefs, their struggles, their truth, is that still entertainment?" The audience went dead silent. Jimmy tried to regain control. "Look, it's comedy. People know it's just for laughs." But Tyrus didn't back down. "Then why do your jokes leave scars?" For the first time, Jimmy Kimmel didn't have a punchline. His face tightened. He tried to steer the conversation elsewhere, but Tyrus kept bringing it back. Truth, respect, hypocrisy in the media. Jimmy's frustration started to boil. You could see it in his eyes, the mix of pride, pressure, and defensiveness. For years, he had been the one asking the hard questions, making people squirm. Now he was the one in the hot seat. And then, the explosion happened. Jimmy slammed his hand on the table. "You don't know what it's like to be in this chair. Everyone's got something to say, but when you're the one holding the mic, you can't please everyone." The audience gasped. The tension was electric. Tyrus didn't flinch. He just looked at Jimmy with surprising calm. "You're right. You can't please everyone, but you can respect them, even when they're not laughing." The silence that followed was almost cinematic. For a few seconds, all you could hear was the hum of the lights and the faint breathing of two men who suddenly weren't just entertainer and guest, they were human beings facing their own reflections. Jimmy looked down, then back up at Tyrus. The fire in his eyes faded into something else, pain, maybe even guilt. He sighed. "You know, you might be right." The audience didn't know how to react. Some clapped, some just stared. But that single line changed everything. Jimmy admitted, "I've made mistakes. I've crossed lines. I thought it was just humor, but maybe I forgot there are real people behind those jokes." Tyrus nodded. "That's all I wanted to hear, brother. We all mess up, but it takes guts to say it out loud." And right then, something powerful happened. Respect. Two men from opposite worlds, one comedian, one commentator, shook hands on live TV. That night became one of the most talked about moments in late-night TV history. Clips went viral, fans argued online, but one thing was undeniable. People saw a side of Jimmy Kimmel they had never seen before, raw, real, and human. Later, in a closing monologue, Jimmy said something that stuck with millions. "Maybe laughter isn't just about mocking the world. Maybe it's about understanding it." The audience stood and applauded. Because beyond the fame, the jokes, and the spotlight, we all crave the same thing: to be heard, to be respected, and to be understood. If this story moved you, if you believe in speaking truth even when it's hard, then hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that matter. Because sometimes, the loudest explosion is the moment truth finally breaks through the noise.